when you have different dynamics that come in when it has to do with household chores, when you have the nanny coming in or you've got a caretaker who really is also involved with that. But also there's ways that we treat caretakers that's also a little bit unfair, I feel. And then there's also that vacuum where your caretaker is not around or your nanny is not around. Who fills in the gaps there when that is happening? There's so many dynamics, especially when siblings in the African context are the ones who are responsible for household chores. Then you start feeling like, look, who's responsible for what? No, I don't like doing that. You do that. And then there's this whole squabble that happens. And then the entire family is disconnected. And then there's that father who sits in the corner and watches everyone on a Saturday morning doing the house chores and is like, this is awkward. What must I contribute? And the mother is giving them a stern look and saying, look, why are you just sitting there while all of us are busy? There can be complications when it comes to household chores. We don't speak much about it, but to help us about looking at the common sources of household squabbles and the best ways to diffuse them is Sarah Bryson, who's a professional organizer and owner of Sorted by Sarah. Sarah, thank you for joining us here on the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I've just put on so many dynamics of household chores, and it's always personal, I feel. It's all about personal relations in the household. And, you know, it's all about negotiating who does what and where. But the truth is, these conversations never happen.
Yes.
And what's your take?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is definitely communication. In my business of home organizing, that the first step is to really just put in good systems, because systems create a structure that everybody knows what the expectations are. And if you don't have those expectations and you don't have those structures, then there's a lot of unmet expectations that you just kind of really cause a bit of conflict, which you definitely don't want, obviously.
Yeah, what have you noticed as the top household chores that tend to spark the arguments?
Yeah, it's always those ones that feel never ending, the ones that have to happen every day or multiple times a day, and they're also highly visible. So things like dishes, laundry, tidying up the communal spaces like the lounge and the kitchen, rubbish, clutter around, common areas. Those are always the ones that tend to spark the most tension if there's no systems in place.
I guess that's because, those areas that you just highlighted are the ones where we use the most and are the common areas in the household. And, once you've cleaned something, maybe you've cleaned a surface, maybe you've removed something somewhere, someone might arrive and actually create more clutter in that environment where you've just cleaned.
Exactly. Yes.
So what do seemingly small tasks like doing dishes or taking out the trash often lead to major house conflicts? How so? And how do you make sure that you deal with that quickly?
So again, I think it really comes back to you need clear systems, because there will be a disconnect really in those expectations. People have different tolerance levels for chaos and how they want the house to be. And when you've got multiple people living in the same space, they all need to really work as a team, and you need to come up with clear expectations. So simple routines and clear agreements where everybody's agreed to what the system is and who's responsible for what are really the way to kind of resolve those before they even happen, so that you're coming back to an agreed way of, like you said, an example of a kitchen counter. There's many people who make a sandwich on that kitchen counter that day. Mm-hmm. So what are the rules, systems you can put in place to make sure that every person is responsible for contributing, actually cleaning, and making a home that is not chaotic but ordered and peaceful?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that, on who does what and how does the agreement come in place, especially when you see people are using the resources of nannies, they're using caretakers in the household, and some have house managers. But it happens one day whereby the household manager is not around, they're not feeling well, or the caretaker is actually not able to be around because they also deserve a holiday. There's so many dynamics, especially when you do actually have someone who is helping out in that regard.
Yes, absolutely. I think then you've got two situations where sometimes you have a lot of help, and there's other times where that help isn't available. It all comes down to really getting to a schedule or a roster, kind of chore roster
Hmm.
that you can revert back to when that help isn't actually there. So having a system, it's always good to have a 2 week rotation. You need to iron out exactly, okay, what are those causes of frustration? If you're the main household runner, what are those pieces that you just need support in, like taking out the rubbish, like tidying the lounge, like cleaning the kitchen, putting all those on a roster, assigning those to family members or whoever is in your home, and really getting people to take responsibility for each one of those things. That's quite an important piece. And it's really important, if you're going to build a system that's actually sustainable in that way, to take into account people's schedules, people's capacity, who's in the home when, so that if somebody's committed to, okay, in the evenings, before I go to bed, I unpack the dishwasher on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
That person is actually there on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. So really taking into account the household. We always say with Sorted, you must make sure that the system is practical and personal. It can't just be a cookie cutter system that you draw from somewhere else. It's got to be something that's personal to your family and how it operates, so that it can really run as a well-oiled machine.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about also areas on how to also treat your outsourcing. Some people, I feel, do abuse their household manager, right? And at times, especially the kids, they know that someone is there to pick up after them. I've seen these big families whereby they have a caretaker, sometimes there's no respect for their caretakers as well. But also, how do you divide tasks in patriarchal environments where we live on the continent where man says everything? It's whether you either do this or you know what, I'm leaving this household. I'm not going to be involved in such things. I'm the one who brings in the money here. You guys do the rest. So you've got that energy sometimes in some households, but we'll deal with those after our break. Hey, we're speaking to our guest today to speak about how to diffuse household chores, squabbles, and Sarah Bryson is joining us, a professional organizer and owner of Sorted by Sarah.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine, weekdays 6 till 9.
In recent weeks, East Africa has seen a disturbing rise in human rights violations. In Kenya, digital activist Rose Njeri was arrested under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act after creating a tool for citizens to oppose the Finance Bill 2025. Meanwhile, in Tanzania, Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan lawyer Agatha Atuhaire reported being detained, tortured, and sexually assaulted by security officers.
East Africa needs a reset. We need to get back East Africa to where the founding fathers are. When President Nyerere and his colleagues Jomo Kenyatta and the Ugandan counterparts fought for independence, they fought for independence to get Africans out of poverty, to get Africans out of slavery. The leaders who took up power have since gotten into regression.
Neto Agostino, co-leader of the United Green Movement Party.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. 9 to 12 midday Central African Time. On the move with Balisa Tau and Benjamin Mushatama.
We're rounding up some of the most common sources of household squabbles, especially when it comes to household chores, how you divide them amongst one another. But what causes conflict when it comes to that instance? Sarah Bryson, professional organizer and owner of Sorted by Sarah, still joins us on the line to have a conversation about it. Sarah, I come from a family of 3 girls and I'm the last born. And, my mom tried her best to try and divide the chores between us. You do this, you do that. And we all hated started doing the dishes. So there was always going to be a squabble.
So who paid who for doing the dishes?
And when neither of us could afford, anyone paying for it yet, there was a system, right? One is going, first of all, we all go to do the dishes. There's three of us. One is going to wash the dishes, the other is going to wipe the dishes, and the other is going to pack the dishes. But as some get older and some remain younger, that also gets changed around quite a lot. Also, there are chores in there that people don't like doing. Like, if I was the washer today, I want to be the packer tomorrow. Everyone wanted to be the packer.
That system sounds terrible.
It's a mess, okay? But that's what happens. And I think children are a part of, the core of what happens, especially if you have older children who can start doing chores within the household. It's hard to sort of delegate the chores that they need to do. And if there's more than one child who is of, the age of helping out around the house, then you have to also delegate which chores to which child. So let's speak about that. Having children that are old enough to do some chores, how do you start that delegation process and how do you make it fair?
Yeah, I think it's such a good point that you raise, where there's definitely some things that just nobody likes to do them. There's many people who don't like to do the laundry or don't like to do the dishes. And when it comes to children, there's an even greater dislike often. But the fact of the matter is, when we grow up, there's definitely going to be a time where you're not going to have somebody to help you with that. Yeah. And you've got to learn how to do it. And the best place is in the home. It's part of preparing them for the world. So I think framing it and realizing no matter how much they push back, it's actually an important life skill to learn how to look after a home and contribute to that. It's an important part of any team or relationship dynamic. I think it's an interesting system you've described there. I think it's actually really nice when one person can be dedicated. They know, for example, Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's when they don't have to play hockey, or that's when they don't have soccer on, so that they know that that's kind of an evening that they've got the time to do that. They're not coming home late. So when you put together a roster, having that space for the children to actually have a break and for it to be incorporated in what their life looks like, so they're not just having everything jam-packed into one. So yeah, and I think actually having those chores on a rotation. So if there's taking out the rubbish and doing the dishes, having that, it's not one person doing the dishes all the time, and one person doing the rubbish. So really just that rotation and taking into account their schedule so that they feel considered, but also part of the team that keeps the household running.
And do you think it can ever be completely fair? Let's say, one of the siblings does play hockey 3 times a week and the other maybe doesn't have a hobby yet and they're always home. Maybe they're more of an introvert and they don't like sports, so they like to sit home and watch TV. And then you make the one that's always home do the chores because the other one is at hockey. Obviously, it doesn't seem fair to the one. And so there are unequal perceptions that happen in the home. Even if there are no children, for example, even with just a couple, there will be unequal perceptions of who does more in the house. How do you try and, take care of those tensions?
So when building the system or schedule that you want your household to operate on, an important part of that will be it's not one person laying down the law. If the main household runner is coming in and has these 7 things that they know they need help with and they just assign it without considering anyone, that's not helpful. There has to be some sort of family meeting where you can come together, where you can decide exactly what are the things that need to be done, and to come to an agreement fairly on, okay, well, these are all the things I'm doing, because then perhaps the partner or the kids who aren't doing as much can start to see how unequal that is and realize the need for that distribution of those chores and decluttering, all those systems, anything that needs to be done. So the biggest piece is that everybody needs to buy in. It can't just be one person deciding and dragging everyone along.
Well, there's one word that's been recurring throughout this conversation, Sarah, and that word is systems. And many people don't know how to build those systems. Many of us are adults who never were taught, about certain systems to put in place. It feels like, we're just here learning as we go. So could you recommend a particular system that we could try and implement to, ease out those household squabbles when it comes to the chores of a home?
I think the the best start is when you have that first family meeting, a 2-week kind of chore chart where you've taken into account, you have the list of what needs to be done, and you have the schedules of everybody, and you put that somewhere very visible. On the fridge is a great place because then everybody can see it. The other piece around maintaining systems in a household is very much around the just rules. So, for example, a dishwasher, whoever's on the dishwasher or washing the dishes, that has to be done before that person goes to bed. They can't say, "Oh, I'll do it in the morning," because then that creates a whole.
Sounds like you know my son there, Sarah.
Things like wiping the counter after a meal. It doesn't matter if you had a sandwich or you made cereal. Rather have a system where if you made something on that counter, it gets wiped. Then that's just the rule. And then another piece is everything in your home should have a designated place. It's so difficult for kids especially, or anyone, if you ask to clean up the lounge, but there's a bunch of things in there that don't have a place, that you don't know where they go. It's very difficult to actually clean that up. So I think having a place for everything in communal spaces and in your personal spaces is so key. That's something we really at Sorted just try to push hard, is having a place for everything in your home should have a place so that your home serves you. You don't serve it and running after it all the time,
Yeah, and Sarah, how do we keep Dad in it, and how do we convince him to also get involved?
Again, it's everybody's got to, it can't just be a laying down one person having to nag the whole time. It's the mental load that person carries, which is often the mom of the house that's just constantly having to nag. There's got to be a way that everybody understands the importance of contributing, and that's all about communication, right? You can't do that without communication and relationship and buying. So yeah, very important to just all be on the same page and see your household as a team effort to keep it ordered.
Well, Sarah, where can we find out a little bit more about Sorted by Sarah, and of course get more of that great advice and some of the services you offer?
Yeah, you can find us on the web at sortedbysarah.co.za. We are also on Instagram with the handle sorted.za. Our contact numbers and emails are all on there for anyone to get in touch that needs help with creating a house and bringing chaos into order.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time. That's professional organizer and owner of Sorted by Sarah, Sarah Bryson, giving us a look at how we can, bring down all the chaos when it comes to household chores and making sure that, all the chores are done and the squabbles are diffused. It's 9:30 Central Africa time. Let's get our latest sports news.